Hello, and welcome to Enough and Evolving podcast. I'm your host, Tyona Vallejo, Master Certified Life Coach and Mindfulness Expert, helping you reclaim confidence, break through unhelpful patterns, and manifest the relationships and life you desire. Now let's get started. Hey friends, so glad you've joined me on the podcast today. In this episode, I am sharing an interview with my colleague and friend, Audra, founder of Mama Audra, and we are having a powerful conversation about what happens when the beliefs and identities we've inherited no longer feel aligned. Have you ever realized that the beliefs guiding your life may not actually belong to you? You know, the ones shaping your decisions, your relationships, even how you see yourself. That was my guest today. And if you have or are currently navigating a major identity shift, relationship change, career transition, or a new chapter of some sort, stay tuned as Audra shares how she moved through guilt, fear, and uncertainty after a major life change. One of my favorite moments in our conversation is a simple story Audra shares about making an apple pie that revealed just how disconnected she became from what she wanted. And I think so many women will relate to this. Now, let's dive in. Welcome, Audra. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. I'm joined with Audra, who is the founder of Mama Audra. She helps moms unravel the web of old beliefs after leaving the LDS Church to discover their own identity as a woman and a mom. With over 15 years of experience in international education and coaching, she discovered her passion in supporting moms grappling with grief, mom guilt, and identity loss after a faith crisis. Audra began her career as a high school biology teacher, was raised in the church, and then moved overseas with her family to work in international schools. When she finally made the life-altering decision to leave the church, she found herself sinking in uncertainty, lonelier than she'd ever been before, and constantly feeling like she was failing her children. Through years of self-discovery and coaching, she has walked the path to uncovering beliefs that resonate, building relationships with her children based on love and trust, and navigating the loneliness that comes from starting all over again. It is so nice to have you here today, Audra. I'm excited about our conversation about really leaning into some deeper self-trust. And when you're going through a huge change in life, whether it's religious or whether it's a divorce or just a big life-altering change, maybe loss of a loved one, I'd love to kind of pick your brain here and figure out what are some of the things that have really helped you along your journey.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here and dive into all the things.
So when did you first realize that some of the beliefs you had inherited no longer felt true or aligned with you?
I would say the first time I consciously realized it was when we moved overseas. And I really became aware of a much broader worldview. And what that did for me was it gave me physical separation from the way that I was raised, from the monoculture that I was in, from the daily minutia of it that kept me really busy.
Yeah.
It gave me that physical separation. And now I was being exposed and making friends with people of all different beliefs and nationalities and cultures. And I was seeing some contradictions from what I was told that would be like. But so that was the first time I think I consciously was like, I could make a different choice.
Interesting.
Subconsciously, I questioned for many years before that, but didn't recognize it for what it was until after.
You said something that really stood out to me right now, and it was that you consciously realized you had a choice. And I find that that's a big awakening moment with most people in whatever life journey they're in, is when they awaken to, whoa, I have other choices here. It's kind of just like such an expansive moment. It really just opens up possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a lot of us, whether, you know, not only people who were raised in a high demand religion, but a lot of us, we were raised in a certain way with the beliefs and idea of parents and society and the culture around us. And sometimes everything seems very dichotomous, right? Like right
Mhm.
or wrong,
Yes.
in or out, all or nothing. And so it feels like there's really only one right way or
Yeah.
one right choice, because the other option is as dramatic as eternal damnation, right?
Yeah. 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 Uh-huh. Yeah.
And so then it doesn't really feel like a choice. It feels like you're constantly looking for the one right choice.
Yeah.
And like as I started to step back from my own life and look at things objectively and
Mhm.
start talking to people of different beliefs who were also happy but doing things totally different than how I was doing it, it's like,
Mhm.
oh, so a choice that's different from the one I'm making now does not mean automatically wrong, and heavy and evil and dark. Like there's all of
Mhm.
these beliefs in between, and all can be equally right.
Yes, I so agree. Again, when I'm working with clients, that tends to be one of the first things that we have to kind of pick apart is this attachment to their conditioning thinking
Mhm.
of this particular thing is right and this particular thing is wrong.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, wait a minute, step back. Honestly, things are completely neutral. And we've just been programmed to believe something in particular about these things.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that's kind of wild, right?
It
To
is wild. And I think it takes away the fear. I think there's a lot of fear of making the wrong choice, fear
Mm,
of doing something wrong, and then you go automatically to like, "Oh, I made a bad choice. I'm a bad person." Like it just
yeah.
spirals downward so quickly. And so there's a lot of fear. And one of the things that I love now, like when I'm talking to my kids are now adults, and
Yes.
so, they make a lot of big life decisions now because they're young adults and they're not quite sure what to do. Like I remember when my son was trying to choose which university to go to, he narrowed it down to
Mhm.
two and he just couldn't decide. And
Mm,
I said to him, "What if neither was the wrong choice?" And it just kind of took the fear away.
mhm.
And then
Yeah.
it made it easier for him to see it almost non-emotionally and make a decision.
Oh, that's so good. I love that question. What if neither are the wrong choice? Yeah. Oh my gosh. You just create so much freedom with that question. That's
Yeah.
so beautiful. What a gift you gave him.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
It just starts to take the fear away,
Right.
because there's a
Right.
fear of, okay, this is what I want, but if I make the wrong choice, I'm not going to get that. And then I'm going to, but
Right.
if you can face the fear head on,
Yeah.
there's
And
there's
that's
no
where
wrong
most
choice.
people get stuck, truly, is just that fear of failing, right? That fear of making a mistake, making the wrong, quote unquote, wrong choice. And really that's so, made up in our own minds, right? That's an illusion that it's wrong. It's like you're either going to learn from it or it's going to move you closer to where you want to go. Either way,
Yes.
it's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that that's a really hard place to get to,
Yeah.
right? It is being
Yeah.
able to face the fear and take a step anyway,
Mhm.
because many of us were raised with one right way, one right path. The alternative is wrong. And like as I started to, learn from different people of different beliefs and different faiths and different cultures. And I also started to see that, well, they have a lifestyle that's totally different from mine, yet they actually seem happier than
Mm.
I've ever been,
Mm.
That was a really huge shift. And I thought I started to see that there's this diversity of beliefs and there's a beautiful diversity of beliefs. And
Mhm.
so one of the conclusions I've come to is, there's 8 billion people on this planet. Why can't there be 8 billion right ways to do life?
Yeah.
Because it's so personal and everyone's lived
Right.
experience is different. The stories that we tell ourselves based on our past, based on what we know, based on what has been brought to our consciousness, it's different for everybody.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thought. Yeah, because everyone has a unique journey. It's like what worked for me may not work for you. Some of the things might, but some of the things might not. And so you'll need to find your own perfect combination of steps, you know, in whatever's been planted in your heart and what you desire, because what you desire is going to be different from what I desire, right?
Yeah, and that's difficult for especially for women, for many of us who have spent our whole life giving, serving, sacrificing, on these beliefs and expectations that were given to us on what would make us a good mom and what would make us a good wife and what would make us a good person. And we
Yeah.
feel this responsibility for everyone else's happiness to the
Hmm.
point where we actually no longer know what would make us happy,
Mm.
And when I had that realization, I I had left the church 8 years prior. So I left the church when I was 35.
Hmm.
And it was 8 years of me kind of just throwing darts in the dark, like not really knowing how to work with the emotions that I was feeling. And I remember this is a simple story, but I think it really illustrates something that a lot of women experience, not just women who have left a high control religion, but there's a moment. So I was making Thanksgiving dinner for the family, and I still had all of that conditioning of like, it has to be perfect.
Yep.
It has to be made from scratch. I
Mm.
have to predict everybody's wants before they even know what their
Mm.
wants are. And if they're not happy, I'm responsible for it. And it needs to just be this amazing experience for everyone, or else I've failed. Right.
Hmm.
I still
Hmm.
had some of those beliefs. And I'm in the kitchen and I'm making apple pie. And I'm making the crust the night before from scratch. And then the next day I'm cutting up the apples and I'm finding myself feeling really resentful while
Yeah.
I'm in the kitchen cutting up these
Yeah.
apples. And I'm like, okay, why am I feeling so resentful right now? Well, I'm doing all this work and nobody's helping, and I'm making
Yeah.
apple pie, and I don't
Mm.
even like apple pie. I'm like, okay, well, if I don't like apple pie, then why am I making apple pie? Well, I make it because it's my husband's favorite, but
Mm.
he's never actually asked me to make it. I just have this belief that I have to provide everybody with their favorites, and that will make
Mm.
me, a good wife and a good mom. So I'm like,
Hmm.
well, okay, then I'm going to make my favorite kind of pie. And I stood there, my mind went blank. Here I am in my early 40s, and I have no idea what my favorite kind of pie is for Thanksgiving. I could tell you my kids, each one of my kids' favorite. I could tell you my husband's favorite. I could tell you my parents' favorite, my
Yeah.
uncle's favorite. I didn't even know my own favorite kind of pie, right?
Wow.
I
Yeah.
had spent I had spent more than 40 years giving, serving, making sure everyone else was taken care of.
Hmm.
I couldn't even answer such a simple question.
Wow.
So then it was like, it sent me down this deep, dark rabbit hole of like, if I can't even name my favorite kind of pie, how am I going to go through this process of healing and make decisions about what my life is going to look like now? And it's really scary because you don't know how to listen to yourself when you've
Hmm.
spent your whole life giving and
Yeah.
serving and thinking that.
Right, right. That connection isn't even there to what you desire.
Yeah.
Right. So
You don't
good.
know how
Yeah.
to do it.
Yes, yes. I do definitely resonate with that story. I remember specific moments as well that completely shifted my perspective in how I was showing up, trying to please everyone else and not even putting my needs on the table. Yeah.
Right.
Not even like recognizing my needs. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because you
Yeah.
haven't done it since you were a small child,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
And
it
especially when
starts.
you're a small child and you're told it's self-centered. You're
Yes.
being selfish when you're thinking about yourself, when you're always asking for your own needs
It's
met.
wrong to be selfish. You need to think
Mhm.
of others first, and then,
Yeah.
take the religious conditioning that I had, layer that on top of that as
Yeah.
well. It was
Yeah.
like, that's a sin to think of yourself first, and you're letting Satan
Right.
into your heart, and you just
Right.
need to
Oh yeah.
obey. And it's like so much shame.
Yes. Yes. So how did you go from all of that programming and shame to turning around and like figuring out your own needs and desires and getting in touch with yourself? So what are some of the things that someone that might be going through the same thing, she's dealing with a lot of maybe mom guilt or people pleasing, and she wants to understand how she lets go of that and starts to put herself on the list there? What were some of the things that you
I think
did?
that's a lifelong process.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
that's the evolution of all of us,
Right.
is coming through that and throughout our life. The first thing I tell a woman when I start working with them is, let's start listening to your body.
Mhm.
Because
You're
we
speaking my language.
we've learned to distrust it. Right?
Yeah.
We've learned to push it down. And, now, so I worked in schools for many years. I was a teacher, and then I was a school administrator. And we would do like child protection, child safety lessons with the
Mhm.
kids.
Mhm.
And one of the lessons is, how do you identify a dangerous situation? And we would teach the kids, the first sign is your body. So if you're
Interesting.
in a situation and you feel uneasy and you feel a tightness in your chest and you feel a lump in your throat, that's a sign that you're in an unsafe situation.
Mm.
And this was not training I received as a kid,
Mhm.
right?
Wow, I know. I didn't receive that either.
I didn't either. So when I'm teaching this lesson to children, when I was working in schools, I was like, this is amazing that we are giving these kids these tools to listen to your body. Because when
Huge.
you feel constriction and you feel like something's heavy and you can't get a deep breath, that's a
Yeah.
sign that there's something there that doesn't align with who you are. And
Yeah.
I don't agree with this. But many times we push that down because we were
Yeah.
trained not to be selfish, not to speak up,
Right.
especially as girls, make sure everyone else is happy and just do
Mhm.
it anyway. Right.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
learn to ignore ourselves. So the first
Mhm.
step is learning how to listen to your
Mhm.
body, but that's difficult because you haven't done it for a long time.
Right.
So it has to start really small, because you
Mhm.
have to start training your brain of what a yes feels like and then acting on it. So your brain now has evidence of you acting on those good feelings. So,
Mhm.
like, I'll give you an example. You go out to a restaurant, you ask a man what he wants to eat, and he'll be like, "Oh, I'll have the hamburger." Like, he
Right.
knows right away. You ask a woman what she wants, and she'll say, "I don't know, what are you having?" I mean,
Yes.
how many times have we all done that? You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So, like, start small. So when you catch
Mm.
yourself going, "Oh gosh, well, what is everybody else doing?"
Mhm.
When you catch yourself doing that, take a moment and, like, really, I'm not even kidding. Like, look at the, like, two options on the menu.
Yeah.
Which one feels like, "Oh, yeah, that
Good
feels
in the
good. I can
body.
take a breath. That feels light." Then
Yeah.
that's the one you're gonna choose, and now act on it, right?
Mm. Oh,
And
that's so good. Yeah.
the more you do that, then this becomes a familiar pattern. Your brain knows what
Right.
it's like to choose what is a yes in your body, and you can start to trust yourself again.
Yes. Yes. I love that. That is such a great example of taking inspired action is just, creating that new pattern, that new neural pathway by just pausing before you act in the habitual way that, is, oh, what is everybody else doing? I remember early on in my journey of healing through, that type of resentment in my marriage and all of that, I noticed that I would always reach out to other people for their validation about a choice that I was making, a decision I was trying to get to. And so I would, call my friends, I'd call my mom, what do you think? Da, 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 da. And I was like, why in the world am I not just choosing and trusting myself? It was
Yeah.
so bizarre when I noticed it. Like it
Yeah.
was so excessive. It was just like, that's always how I decided things. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
We're
Yeah.
always defaulting to other people,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
I just recently have noticed that like when I'm traveling with my family or with my husband, my first question in the morning will be to them, what do you guys want to do today? What do you want to do today? But what
Mm.
if I figured out what I wanted to do today first and then I
Mhm.
just presented it?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I mean,
Yeah.
so that's kind of a newer one for me. Yeah, but I think also in that we have to learn how to make these decisions from a place where we're more emotionally available. Because if
Yeah.
we're, like you mentioned earlier, when you're feeling guilt and shame, and how do you move forward from that?
Yeah.
Though you don't want to be making decisions from this place of these lower feeling emotions that feel
Yeah.
hard and heavy.
Yeah.
You need to slowly get yourself to a better feeling emotion so you're making decisions from a place of peace and you can really hear what your body is saying.
Yes. So, what I hear you're talking about is really just regulating yourself, regulating your nervous system, taking off any internal judgment and guilt or shame. So, just like creating a sense of safety in yourself. And then once you've established that, then you can take the steps forward to making that change. Can you give any examples of ways that you've been able to do that for yourself, create that sense of safety when you felt that those lower vibrations, those lower emotions?
Yeah. The first thing is to acknowledge it, right?
Mm,
And to
yeah.
be aware that it's happening. And
Yes.
sometimes that's the hardest because you're just caught in the well-worn pattern, right? You're caught
Mhm.
in that your brain knows where to go. And so you're just automatically headed there. So being aware of what's happening first, and then being able to sit and go, okay, what's the emotion that I'm feeling here? And where is it residing in my body? And just observe it at first.
Yeah.
Because if you push it down, it's going to get stuck,
Yeah.
right? And you need to kind of move it through.
Mhm.
And so you need to sit. I journal a lot. I do a ton of
Okay.
journaling because for
Nice.
me, that's really
Same.
powerful. If I can just write it out and take the
Yeah.
time to write it out, like, what
Yeah.
is this emotion? Where is this coming from? And I can do some different like emotional or nervous system regulation techniques like EFT, tapping
Yeah.
meditations are
Love
really
it.
helpful, or breath work is really helpful. Just
Yes.
for my body to realize that I'm feeling this resentment or whatever
Mhm.
emotion it might be, but I'm still safe,
Yeah.
right? I'm still
Yes.
safe in this emotion. So then you
Mhm.
don't have the fight or flight anymore. And once you can start to feel safe in the emotion, you can start to go, okay, why am I feeling this way? What's the trigger? And what else could this mean? Because usually
Yeah.
the trigger is based on a story that you're telling yourself. Like, for example, I'll give you a personal example. So several months ago, I had gotten a text message with a picture of like a family gathering from a family member. And like, I didn't know about this family gathering. I wasn't invited to this
Mm.
family gathering. So
Mhm.
my automatic pattern was I don't belong. They don't want me there. I
Mhm.
must not be loved. This is because
Mhm.
I left the church. I'm no longer
Mm.
welcome. Right. That
Mhm.
was my
Right.
automatic response. And it was painful. And so I sat with it for a while. And then I thought, okay, that could be true. That could be true that I wasn't wanted and I wasn't included. And what else could be true that
Mm.
maybe my brain is not bringing to my awareness right now? What else could be true that's going to feel just even one step better? Like, I don't need to feel joy about getting this picture, but if I can go up from resentment to maybe worry or frustration, right, then that's going to feel
Yes.
a little bit better.
Yes.
And so I sat there and I thought, well, okay, it could be true that their intention was to make me feel included by sending this picture.
Mhm.
And that feels better in my body. And I don't know if it's true or not, but I don't know if my other version was true or not either. Right.
Mhm.
And so I'm
Mhm.
going to choose the one that feels a little bit better. So many
Mm.
times it's walking through, what do I feel now and how can I feel just one step better?
Yeah. What does self-trust feel like in your body compared to fear and guilt?
For me, fear and guilt feels panicky. It feels like my heart is beating really fast. If I
Mhm.
get flushed, it feels
Mhm.
heavy. And self-trust feels light and
Mhm.
expansive, like I'm just wide open. And
Mhm.
I feel safe in that openness.
Mhm.
But that has often it's not a familiar feeling. And
Mhm.
so, that's why I say start small. What are some small things that you can do to feel that feeling of self-trust and then make decisions from that place rather from that heavy feeling?
Yeah, I love that. And so with the clients you work with, what are some of the steps or the framework that you use to help them lean into more self-trust?
One of the things we do is we start to kind of uncover some old beliefs that are there. So the type of coaching that I do is NLP, which stands for neuro linguistic programming. So it's the language of your subconscious. And your subconscious is where your identity and your beliefs and your values reside.
Yep.
And those inform the story that your conscious mind is telling you, your thoughts, your behaviors, and your emotions. So, if we can make some change at the subconscious level, we've got
Mhm.
to dive into identity and beliefs, but we have to be aware of them first
Right.
because so many of them were just given to us
Right.
as children from many different sources, teachers, parents, whoever,
Mm.
right?
Yes.
So, one of the things we become aware of is those beliefs that are there, right? So you pay attention to how your body feels. You notice that constrictive feeling. You name the emotion that's attached to it. And
Mhm.
then you can go a next step further and go, okay, what is the belief I have that is giving me this emotion right now? And this
Yeah.
emotion feels constrictive. So there's a belief there it's not really mine, but it's still there running the show in the background,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And many times it has to do with our definition of a good mom, wife, person,
Yeah.
whatever that's
Yeah.
given to us. And so if you have a belief that is a good mom always sacrifices and serves herself last,
Mm.
right? But that feels constrictive in your body. Then let's start poking holes in that belief because your subconscious mind thinks that that belief is absolute. It thinks it's always true 100% of the time. And
Right.
it's looking for evidence of that belief all the time. It's
Yes.
self confirming, right? So let's start poking holes in that and
Yeah.
go and figure out where it came from. Okay, well, when did I decide that that was true, that I have to
Yeah.
put myself last?
Yeah.
Who gave me that belief?
Yeah.
And usually it's something from your childhood, right? And
Mhm.
it usually, if it's constrictive, it didn't come from you.
Right.
And then, okay, is this belief always true? is there ever a time that this belief is not true? Do I know of a mom who doesn't put herself last, who takes care of herself and then is really present for her kids, and I still consider her a good mom? So look for evidence,
Yeah.
right, that belief is not true.
Yeah.
And then your brain starts to go, oh my gosh, this is not true. We could come up with a new belief. You're starting to dismantle that wiring.
Right.
And this is a process that, I mean, you can't just do it as quickly as I'm explaining it, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's a
Yeah.
long process, but that's one of the biggest things is being aware of those beliefs that are running the show in the background and are
Absolutely.
determining your thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. Once you're aware of them, it's like, I say, and I love that. I think you talked about this in one of your podcasts too about affirmations. Like
Hmm.
the affirmations, the new beliefs, but you have to clean out the old belief first. It's like an affirmation without cleaning out the old belief is like pouring coffee in a dirty coffee mug.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
have to clean out the dirty coffee mug first,
Hmm.
dismantle that old belief, show your brain that there's another pathway that could
Right.
also be true. And then those
Yes.
affirmations they're going to be helpful because you're just confirming a new belief. You cleaned out that coffee cup first.
Yeah. Yeah. You said something that I always talking about on the podcast and with clients is that awareness is key. Awareness is the number one place we always have to come back to. Without the awareness, you can't make any of this change or transformation or start to really look at the old beliefs that you have been programmed with. You wouldn't even recognize that
Yeah.
that is what is truly holding you back. That's what's keeping you stuck and apart from the happiness that you're really wanting or the freedom that you're really wanting. So I love that you talked about that is the first place that we need
Yeah.
to start is the awareness, and definitely that there's so much power in our beliefs and what is set in our subconscious mind. And so I love that NLP is another way to help people kind of navigate through that and completely change their beliefs.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our conversation today, I have one more question for you that I love to ask guests that come on the show because the name is Enough and Evolving. And so the question is, does being enough and evolving mean to you in this season of your life?
Mm. Enough and evolving is like two truths. I can be
Mm,
enough for myself as I
yeah.
am,
Mhm.
and I can be reaching for more.
So good. I love that. Audra, thank you so much for being on today. This was such a fun conversation. What an incredible journey you've been through. And it's so beautiful to hear all the stories about your transformation. Thank you so much for taking time with us today. And where can listeners learn more about you and the work that you're doing in the world through Mama Audra?
So you can go to my website, which is
Okay.
mamaaudra.com, or on all the socials as Mama Audra, except on Instagram. That was taken, unfortunately. So
Okay.
Mama Audra Official on
Okay.
Instagram.
Nice. Okay. Well, thank you again. And thank you to the listeners for joining us today. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
If you're listening to this and you're recognizing yourself in these patterns, this is exactly the work I do inside my coaching. This isn't something you have to figure out alone. If you're ready to feel more confident, grounded, and self-trusting, I'd love to support you. Check out the show notes to book a consultation coaching call today.